I got into Monster Hunter relatively late, my first one being Tri for the Wii. Since then, the series has evolved and added several new monsters, areas, weapons, battle mechanics, and the like, leading up to Monster Hunter World, which simplified a number of things and made changes some fans were calling for quite some time. However, there's one thing I'll argue should be reintroduced which fell by the wayside shortly after Tri: underwater combat and exploration. Monster Hunter fans, before you instantly dismiss this video and leave angry, misguided comments, hear me out. Underwater sections allowed for environments where the player could explore more than a horizontal plane without adding more than the usual amount of zones. It created new nesting areas for monsters and allowed places to feel less gated off. They opened up the possibility of farming for materials underwater, or finding certain water-based items without having to fish for them. Moving in from above or below monsters made attacking certain breakable parts on them easier. Drowning wasn't an issue, as the hunter could hold their breath for an absurdly long time, and using an air supply or drifting through a bubble geyser instantly refilled the air bar. It introduced some more dynamic monsters which could battle on land or in the water. Even water monsters that were around before Tri, like Plesioth, showed up in 3 Ultimate with a slew of underwater moves. For Plesioth in particular, in other games you would have to wait on land for it to get out of the water, or use a sonic bomb to lure it out, which usually didn't work for me. So being able to simply jump in the water and swim after it was much better in the long run. Did the underwater design have its flaws? Oh, absolutely. The camera being positioned right behind the player could sometimes make it hard to tell what was directly in front of you, though seeing large monsters wasn't a major issue because, well, they're large. Dodging could be done up, down, left, right, and forward, and sometimes the inputs could lead you to dodge forward instead of up. The suicide dive with invulnerability frames was all but gone. The camera position could also make depth perception difficult at times. Not an issue for gunners, but for Blade Masters it leads to attacks falling short of their intended targets. Also for Blade Masters, attacks had different, usually slower animations. All that being said, the concept was abandoned way too fast. Tri and 3 Ultimate had underwater sections, and that was it. Even Portable 3rd, which came out before 3 Ultimate, didn't have them. Looking at the games from Portable 3rd onward, some underwater monsters like Gobool and the big daddy of Tri, Cedius, are completely gone. Those that remain, like Royal Ludroth and Tri's flagship monster Lagiacrus, are so gimped from not having their underwater moves they no longer present anything resembling a challenge. Sure, they tried giving Lagiacrus a couple extra lightning moves, but they're easy to dodge and he's so slow on land that even calling him a mid-tier monster is being generous. Maps which used to have underwater sections either no longer have those areas accessible or haven't been used since. The deserted island is straight up missing 2 zones, and one just loops back to the nesting area when the water gets more than knee deep. Now I ask, why couldn't this be implemented again in World? First off, just look at where the game takes place. An island. The Astera camp is right next to the ocean, so is the ancient forest. The closest thing it has to swimming at the moment is sloshing around in the mud near the desert, usually when going after Barroth or Gyrototus. Second, Monster Hunter World's MO is taking some of the more tedious or aggravating aspects of prior Monster Hunter games and making them more enjoyable, accessible, and less headache-inducing. Gathering items? Just hit a button while running past them and you'll get 3 or 4 of them. Combining items in the field? You can do that automatically if you want. Scrolling through the inventory for particular items mid-battle? Use the wheel for those, and a laundry list of other commands. Knowing what items you need to forge stuff? Mark the weapon or armor and the game will tell you when you finish gathering the necessary ingredients. Forget to eat before the quest? There's an oven and some tables at each camp. The target monster's really far away? Fly between camps to save a lot of time. Using a weapon you aren't familiar with? More often than not, somewhere on the screen there are button prompts for different attacks you can pull off. That's just off the top of my head. So you're telling me they can change all that and more, but underwater combat's a lost cause? They can't change the camera to make things easier to see, they can't alter the dodge mechanics so they're easier to use, they can't alter Blade Master attacks so they work a bit better underwater? On top of that, one of Monster Hunter World's weakest aspects is the number and variety of monsters. At launch, World had 30 large monsters in it, and has since added 3 more over the past year or so. Of those 30, 3 were subspecies, so the initial roster was pretty slim on unique large monsters. When it first launched, you basically had one ice-based monster and by extension, one option for ice weapons and armor. They've slowly added to it with the eventual announcement of Iceborne, which better mean my boy Barioth is making an appearance. If they're willing to keep adding large monsters and new areas to world for the foreseeable future, I'm hoping they eventually open up underwater sections again, or add them for later releases. All I ask is that if they do, Capcom doesn't act like it's some sort of revolutionary new feature that's never been done before. The WWE games already do that enough for everybody.